Here's an interview from one of our past shows on Rock and Metal Revival. If you're interested in hearing full shows, go to our Facebook page and check out our list of affiliates for times and places where you can hear Rock and Metal Revival. There's a new single from ARisingForce. It's called Believe, and it comes from their just-released album in June. It's called Eclipse. And with us today is lead vocalist David Watson from ARisingForce. Welcome to the Revival, David.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, it is a pleasure to have you on the show. Now, David, correct me if I'm wrong, but I see the band hails from Minnesota. I know when I was in college in Minneapolis back in the late 80s, there was a great hard rock and metal scene. Bands like Hurricane Alice and Slave Raider and all those bands were up there. Is that where ARisingForce was kind of born out of?
Yeah, actually, it's funny that you mentioned Hurricane Alice because Lenny DiMicari, our guitar player, he's the founder of Hurricane Alice.
That's great. I mean, there was such a great, like I said, hard rock and metal scene up there in the late '80s, and I can hear. I don't want to say I want to hear a retro sound from you guys, but I can hear a little bit of that when I listen to this album.
Our bass player is a founding member of a band called ARIsingForce. It was around during that time as well.
I know exactly that band. I really do. For our listeners who might be not be real familiar with ARisingForce, tell us a little bit about the band.
Well, it basically happened when pretty much during the pandemic, three of the members, Lenny, our former drummer Lane, and the founder Brian from ARISingForce, they were in ARISingForce together, and when the pandemic hit, they decided to just lay it to rest. You know, ARISingForce had been around for a number of years, and they kind of started working on new material, and that was the inception of ARisingForce. That's when they went out and they found another vocalist. Great guy, but he had his own band here in town, so he was kind of like a fill-in, and they ended up doing an album with him. So after that, things started picking up, and he had too many commitments. So they were like, okay, let's try to find a permanent vocalist, and that's when they found me.
Okay. And
so very, very short history.
Very short history. And now David, I'm a guy who's very lyrically driven when listening to music. Now, listening to this from the first track to the end of the new Eclipse release, I hear a lot of different themes in here. Did each of the band members bring some personal aspects of the writing to this album?
Lenny and I are the main lyricists in the band. Lenny wrote a lot of the stuff that was residual from the ARISingForce stuff into the last album. And then I contributed lyrics for Star and for Trail of Tears. It was like kind of an amalgamation of all the different things that we go through personally. So okay. I don't think there was ever a running theme. Maybe with the third album, it might be a little bit more focused, let's say.
Okay. All right. I get that. Now, I was really impressed with the video for the first single, Believe. I love what I think the message is from the song. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's pretty much believe what you want to believe, isn't it?
You know, I've gotten different answers for this song, and I love that I get a different answer for it because I've always wanted my lyrics to be open to interpretation, but it originally started out with Lenny writing about televangelists, and our how do you want to say their deceptive nature of conning people out of money. And so it started off like that, but I love that idea of believe what you want to believe because I hold that philosophy completely.
All right, well, cool.
Myself.
Now, one of our affiliates here for Rock and Metal Revival is KFRK, which is Ron Keel's online radio station. Now, I had heard that you are friends with Ron. Can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with the great Ron Keel?
Ron and I go back to Las Vegas. You know, he was there doing shows in Las Vegas for quite a few years. He his wife Renee and my ex were really good friends. So Ron and I rubbed elbows here and there. We'd talk at places like our local club called Vamped, which is owned by Danny Coker.
Yep.
And we we kind of rubbed elbows there, and then we kind of lost touch because he moved to the Dakotas, and then I found out when I joined ARisingForce, Lenny and I first started talking, and he started talking about all the people on his roster, and he said, "Oh yeah, Ron Keel is on the roster with us," and I go, "I know Ron." I go, "No way." So the first interview I did was with Ron, and it was us reconnecting again after quite a few years. It was really cool. It was really cool.
That is very cool. Now is ARisingForce I know you've been in other bands. Is this your main gig, or are you still with some of your other band?
This is my main gig. I'm there during the right before the pandemic hit. I moved to England for 6 months, and I wrote an album with some friends of mine, and the name of the band is called Alchemy Fire. That is actually still in the works, but more of a back burner project for me. I've pretty much gone full force with that's what, no pun intended, with ARisingForce, because I just believe in the music so much, and it's been so energetic, and it's taken off. I wasn't expecting Believe to hit 65,000 views, and I'm excited about it, and it gives me hope for this band in the future. So we've taken off with a running start, and so I've definitely focused more on this right now.
Cool. Now, when you recorded this album, was it post-pandemic?
It was post-pandemic.
Okay.
It was, because I was actually in Arizona at the time. I had some, I had a Skinner tribute band that was based out of Los Angeles and then out of Nevada, and I had some shows that I had left to do with them. So my better half and I, we were in Arizona visiting her mom, and we were actually thinking about living there for good when I got the phone call from Lenny, because I'm new to Minnesota. I'm not a Minnesota native. I'm a New Englander. Born and raised New Englander, then went in the Marines and moved down south, and kind of made my way out to the West Coast. So I never imagined that I would be in Minnesota. But getting that call from Lenny and getting this opportunity handed to me, I couldn't pass it up. There was no way.
Exactly.
The music's too good. It's too good.
Now, my question, why I asked you that, if it was post-pandemic, was when you recorded this album, did you do it the old way? Were you all in the room together, or did you piece this thing together with everybody sending in their parts?
No, thank God. I've spent so many years now of doing that piecing together music, and a lot of the music I have out there is working with people from different countries, and it was so refreshing for us we went to a studio here, and you might be familiar with it. It's called Winterland. And our friend Brian Bart was the guy that produced it, co-produced it with Lenny. So we all sat in Winterland together, and we're talking after weeks and months of hashing through the songs and writing the songs together. But when we actually recorded the album, it was the four of them in a room and me in a vocal booth, and we did it all live. We pretty much had our parts down. So to answer your question, it was just a beautiful, beautiful transition from this pre-pandemic way of recording everything separately and sending tracks out to people, and you really get to feel the music when you're actually present with the people, and that you can make changes on the fly. And I'm grateful that we got to do it this way.
Now, I had read that your other guitar player is like 23 years old, right? And he's out playing with you guys. Now, you guys are playing with some guys that I've hung out with a lot. I'm talking about like Tesla and Firehouse.
and bands like that. How's he responding to that? Hanging out with guys who have, hey, they've rode the roads quite a bit.
He is in heaven, and I get to live vicariously through him because I as well. I'm an older dude, and I know these people, and I've grown up with them, and I've hung out with them, and so to see the excitement in Billy's eyes, he just has this, because his inspirations for guitar, like Randy Rhoads and George Lynch and Warren DeMartini, Eddie Van Halen, like all the people that I grew up with, per se, either watching them on MTV or going to see their bands when they were younger. So to have those kind of inspirations at 23, and then to be able to go over, I mean, it was a beautiful thing. Like when we were just recently in Minnesota, we played our last show with Tesla, and Billy was just, you could just see him shaking like a asthmatic chihuahua. He's just, Frank is out there walking his little dog, and Billy can't believe that he's hanging out with one of the members of Tesla, and that this member of Tesla is treating him like a human being.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. It was brilliant to see.
That's very, very cool. Those guys are such great dudes. Now, hey, I got to ask you, I mean, I've heard the album. I've listened to it numerous times since I got a copy of it. What are your touring plans? I know you guys have been out with Tesla and you're doing some and I looked at your website. It looks like you got about 8 or 9 dates on there. Are you guys planning on really hitting it hard, maybe second half of 2022?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. We've got shows coming up at Firehouse. Brett Michaels, who I've played out with before when I was in a band called Foundry in Las Vegas. We've got shows with Collective Soul. Our bandmates, our label mates, Every Mother's Nightmare, will be going out with them as well. And then possibly rejoining Tesla for some Texas and New Orleans dates. And also there's a new thing that just came up because of my military service. A friend of mine actually never left the Far East, and he's trying to get us booked over there in Japan. So yeah, there's no plans of us stopping at all. We're probably going to start the writing process for the third album probably this summer, because we anticipate being very, very busy in the 2023 and on.
Outstanding. Well, I've loved what I've heard so far. I hope you get into Wisconsin sometime real soon so we can come check you out and hear you play live. Where's the best place for people to find out more about ARisingForce?
Well, we've got our main website, which you can go to. It's ARisingForce Band. It's .com, and it's got our our information for our record label, Dark Star, our links for YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the normal things. It's got our tour schedule on there, as well as our bio and whatever links that you need to. You can go right to that and find everything.
Outstanding. Well, I want to wish you all the luck in the world. Like I said, I hope you get into Wisconsin so we can come check you out live. And we always let our artists pick a song out of the interview. You want to take one off Eclipse that you'd like us to play for the listeners?
Yeah, I don't want to say I have a favorite song in here, but there's a really powerful kind of bluesy ballad on there called Trouble's Back in Trouble Again, and it's very much the life of a rock and roller, having toured and come back to this kind of situation. It's morbidly humorous.
Okay.
In that respect.
Outstanding. Well, I got to ask you one more question before I let you go.
Okay.
Is there one song in this album that you think would have benefited from the use of more cowbell?
It's funny you say that, because our new drummer, his name is Peter Savage, and he said to us, he goes, you know what? In that song Ragdoll, I can hear a cowbell.
Hey, cowbell makes everything better. It just does.
You bet.
All right.
You bet.
All right, David Watson from ARisingForce. Thank you so much for spending some time with Rock and Metal Revival today.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a great day.